This video is about my experience with atrial fibrillation and the subsequent ablation that was performed just about a week ago. And I've shared a lot of content in Swedish over the past few weeks, both on Instagram, but foremost on my podcast. But it's in Swedish, so I know there's a lot of interest out there from other people that are just like me, former or still athletes, and you're looking for good information. I know I was anyway when I was thinking about how to handle it and how to educate it myself and how to understand it more than anything. I would have appreciated to have a video like this from someone else that hails from the same background as I do. Athletic, endurance, otherwise healthy as far as I know, but with apparent problems of atrial fibrillation. And this is a short sort of summary for you guys to hopefully help you in the process that you may be going through. So my background is this, well, this is me. I'm 53 years old. I live in Sweden. I have a lifelong athletic background. I began swimming when I was a kid. I did typical distance swimming, not on a super high level, but reasonably well. I turned into triathlon in my late teens, 17, 18 years old. And I found a niche there. I I was sort of a late bloomer. Given the fact that in Sweden, triathlon was a very, very small sport. We didn't have any experts. We didn't really have any coaches. We didn't have a lot of federation support. So that was both bad, of course, but it was also good. It gave some of us during that generation a lot of freedom, time, and sort of unlimited. There were no limits in what you could do in training. No one regulated it in a way that it sort of felt restricted. So I found a great way to train. I experimented a lot. I put a lot of time into analyzing what I did and how I did it. And I tried to understand the process. I'm an avid reader of triathlon nostalgia and history. So that really helped me during those 10 years during which I developed. And also during that time, I did my best in trying to understand the physiology behind endurance training and athletic training in general. And I began exercising with a polar heart rate monitor already as early as 1991. So I really did have a head start in that sense, and I was very early on acutely aware of the sort of the heart's function, and I've always been very interested in understanding how sort of where the sort of where the J curve sort of tips over from what is maximum endurance or what is maximum performance to what also would be sort of maximum health, and if there is any indiscrepancy in that pursuit, by that I mean would a long career striving for athletic excellence maybe be a problem from a health standpoint further on. And early on, of course, I was very aware of the dangers of exercising or racing with an infection or generally being not well. I also had the advantage of early on and from a variety of opportunities be part of a lot of physical testing. I've done so many sort of scientific lab tests in terms of VO2 max, maximum heart rate. If you have a lot of, if you are well read about exercise physiology, you'd know that Sweden has always been in the forefront of that part of science, and sports science has really been a Swedish virtue or a Swedish thing. So we've had a lot of knowledge in that field. Of course, triathlon as a relatively new sport, and certainly in the early 90s, there were a lot of gaps to fill. And over the past, 2 decades, we do know so much more about triathlon physiology. But nevertheless, it really it kept giving me information. It kept giving my it sort of fed the need for understanding what I did, and it also it was also a very good way. It is a very good way to sort of check progress. Races can sometimes be success, or the lack of success can sometimes be a little bit random or really due to external factors. But I was very early on interested in the physiology, and I was also made aware that I did have which was obvious. I did lack a lot of qualities athletically when I was young. I was never really a talent, quite the opposite, to be honest. But I did really enjoy exercising and training, and I did have an intuitive understanding of how a process works, and that really played into my advantage, as did, of course, my curiosity and my constant search for knowledge and sort of piecing different puzzles together. I've always found that to be extremely interesting, and that's obviously why I'm still in the sport on the coaching side now, and also working a lot with sort of health promotion and longevity. And that's just a continuing, continuing on the same path, basically, but on a slightly diverged direction, of course. But anyway, I was, in lack of all the talents that I didn't have, I did have a lot of physiology that worked in my favor. I had a reasonably high VO2 max. I'd say pretty high, at least by those standards for a triathlete. Now we have Christian Blumenfeld, who's basically blowing who's basically really going off any charts in any sports, and just have like phenomenal markers. But I know I clocked in at about 6.9 liters per minute, and on a sort of VO2 number, I think I was at 82, 83, given my weight at the time. So that was a good starting point, and I understood that I did have a lot of good physiology working in my favor. I also did a lot of medical examinations of my heart for a variety of reasons. Some of it was because we had 30 years ago a lot of athletes dying in Sweden, or 30 plus years, especially in the sport of orientering. Turned out they were all suffering from some sort of virus, and also sort of individual factors. But I did do a lot of examinations of my heart. I did have a personal contact for many years. My house doctor was a cardiologist here in my hometown, and I very sort of regularly did medical examinations with him, with an EKG, and they also included a regular blood work and such. So, and also through a variety of different examinations, so forth. And I've always sort of been at good health in general, not only heart-wise, but in general, very good health. I was not even during my career, my 17-year career as a professional athlete, I was rarely sick. I would say my sort of constitution, physically and anatomically and medically, has been robust. Basically, I could withstand a lot of hard training and traveling, and rarely did I sort of get a cold or anything. I did know from also an early point that I have something called a Schenkelblock. I don't know how that translates in English, but that is just, as far as I understand, anatomical variation of the heart's curve. It's not seen as something to be alarmed about, or to be, it's not a risk factor, but it's good to know, like a cardiologist would know that it's not a risk factor. Maybe just a sort of a general doctor or a nurse would react on it, but I think it's pretty well known now that Schenkelblock is not a factor. I did have a long career. I had a 17-year career as a professional triathlete from very humble beginnings. I did manage to win a number of ITU World Championship and European Championship medals. Long distance, I was third in 2001. I was second in 2004. I had 5 places, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 as well. I had a number of Ironman podiums, a number of sort of non-affiliated Ironman distance races wins. I won Ultraman World Championships in Hawaii twice. I was very early on jumping on the bandwagon of swim run. I was part of the inaugural, very first humble beginnings swim run, Ötelö. It didn't really have a name, swim run. It was just called Ötelö back in 2006 with, I guess, like 5 or 6 or 7 other teams. It was a real disaster. I mean, it was just very crazy, those races in the early on, but I did win it 3 times later on, and I kept racing up until basically 2011, 2012, but I never really quit. I just kept training, and I've been training ever since. And for the past 10-15 years, I've done a lot of other adventures, like distance swimming. I swam 640 kilometers between Stockholm and Gothenburg in 2014. It took me about 6 weeks, like a charity swim. I wasn't trying to swim as fast as I could, but I was, because we wanted it to take 6 weeks in order to raise money. But that was a long, hard swim in a lot of cold water. I did swim most of it without a wetsuit in Swedish waters. Warm summer, but it became really cold in the end. 2 years later, I swam around the island of Phuket in Thailand, and in 2017 I swam around the largest island in the Baltic Sea, Gotland, Swedish island, 300 kilometers. Really, really bad weather, very cold also. And besides that, I've done so many Ötelö races, swim run races. I haven't really raced a lot over the past few years. I've been focusing more on raising a family with 3 little kids and so forth. So I'd say maybe over the past 5 years, my focus has been mainly training and just, preserving and improving my health. But I've always kept a weekly sort of average of, or like I'd say my training week over the past 5 years has been from like a really bad week, maybe 7-8 hours, up to 16, 17, sometimes 20 or even more hours than that. So so basically 40 plus years of endurance training. I've done over the past 5-6 years a lot more weights, a lot more strength training. I haven't done many long workouts. I can't even remember last time I did a workout longer than 3 hours. That would be probably my last attempt at Ötelö, September last year. But other than that, I'm doing more of, I'd rather do more workouts spread out over more activities than do a single long workout. And since I have had a lot of issues sort of increasingly with atrial fibrillation, I haven't done a lot of hard workouts. So that's my background anyway. Over the past 5 years, I've had, I have 3 small kids. Their ages now are 7, 5, and 2. And I would say the last 5 years have been quite stressful for me. I have my own company, and it's been sort of a financial recession all over, and also in Sweden, of course, and just sort of the sheer workload of trying to raise a family with 3 kids, even though my wife is she's doing most of the heavy lifting, but it still takes its toll, of course. So more stressful than I think life has been before. It may be a factor, it may be something to sort of understand that stress is not just a physical thing. It's not just looking at the training peaks data or looking at the workout scores or understanding or looking at weekly hours and such. It's understanding the entire load of stress, the entire stress load. And I'm talking not only physical stress, which in many cases may be the actual stress that alleviates a lot of the other stress. That's how I see my training these days. It's alleviating a lot of the mental stress and a lot of the emotional stress, a lot of the financial stress, a lot of the sort of stress of just sitting indoors hours on end every day and so forth. So stress is really a combination of physical stress, mental stress, cognitive stress, emotional stress, chemical stress. I mean, if you're drinking a ton of coffee every day, traveling stress, I mean, financial stress, you could, they don't have any, there are not any fixed limits or, between these, they all mix in and blend. But just understanding stress is an important factor in understanding atrial fibrillation. But anyway, I've been backtracking a lot, understanding when I first experienced my first, I don't know what to call it, seizure or first attack, or when I first experienced atrial fibrillation. I mean, every athlete have had periods where they react to their heart not, beating as it has been in the past, and often we sort of think there's something wrong with the heart rate monitor or the chest strap or something. Anyway, I think I had my first episode, at least that I've sort of written up and noticed, back in 2016. That's basically 10 years ago. And I just noticed it as I was just heading out onto a bike ride on a camp that I was hosting. And I just suddenly noticed, I was riding very slow, very easy. I just noticed that heart rate just shot up. I mean, from maybe like 100 heart rate up to climbing 120, 130, 150, 140, 150, and I could feel sort of my heart rate picking here. And that's how I would describe for several of the forthcoming years, is like, how does AFib feel when you get it? It's like a picking, it's like my heart rate, my heart sits here, and it's like ticking and picking at my throat somehow. And that's how I felt. And the thing at the time is, when I did get AFib, and I would have months and months between these episodes, it would always go away fast. It would always pass by itself. I just basically had to finish the workout. If I did intervals, like if I did an indoor workout on the ski erg, on the pulling machine, which I do a lot in the wintertime. Like if I did an interval session, I could feel like on the first interval after warming up that I had an unusual rise in heart rate. Like I could feel this sensation here, and I could notice it and verify it by my heart rate monitor. I basically just had to stop the interval. I just had to compose myself, let my heart rate go down, and I could feel, and I would okay, everything, the heart rate is fine, or this is like, it's a correct, my Garmin is actually picking up exactly what my heart is doing. There is nothing wrong with the monitor, because I could feel it here. And I would just settle, and most times I could just, restart the workout or restart the interval 5 minutes later, and I would be fine. So for a long time, that was it. I didn't really think of it much. I never really thought of it as a problem. I knew, of course, a lot of stories. I was acutely aware that atrial fibrillation is something that older endurance athletes, in particular men, will have to be aware of. But I mean, I didn't have any means of regulation. What am I supposed to do that I'm not already doing? Like, I do want to exercise. I'm not at the time, didn't have any kids. I mean, there's only so much stress in my life that I can sort of regulate, and it's not really that stressful. It's, so anyway. And then in 2019, I did have one of my very, very few episodes when I did get atrial fibrillation while resting. I was sitting like this in my office at the time, and I could just, all of a sudden I felt very nervous, like there was something to be nervous about, as if I was going on stage and talking in front of 200 people on a subject I didn't know anything about, like that kind of unpreparedness, nervousness. And there was absolutely no reason for being nervous, but I just felt my sort of heart rate speeding up, and this sensation of nervousness somehow. And so I checked my heart rate, and I could feel that it was high. I immediately went home and put my heart rate monitor on, and I noticed that I was sort of, even just sitting down, I had a heart rate of like 130 beats per minute, which would be, I mean, decent pace distance running for me otherwise. So I went straight to the ER, and they kept me there for the entire afternoon and half the night. And while I was laying there, I was hooked up to the monitor, and I could see that my heart rate, subsequently went down to 40, 42, 45. And I thought, well, that's fine. I'm out of it, because I didn't really I felt good. And the doctor said, no, you're still in atrial fibrillation, actually. And that was the first time I thought that maybe I've had this more than I knew. Maybe this is a bigger problem than I thought. And that resulted in me talking to a few doctors, to a few famous or well-known Swedish cross-country skiers, and some of the experts on the sort of Swedish Olympic committee, or the Olympic, some doctors sort of hired by the Swedish Olympic team or the Olympic Swedish movement. And they advised me to not do an ablation at the time. They said that everyone agreed that if you do have problems basically every day, if you do feel that this is a problem that seriously hampers your training, or that it affects you in any way, you should absolutely do an ablation. But it needs to be sort of worse before you go ahead and do anything. And I also wore one of these monitors for 48 hours. I think it's called Holter in Swedish, at least, or in some versions it's called Holter. And it of course didn't show anything, because I really didn't have any AF episodes. I had a handful, I would have 2 or 3 in the same week, and then it would be 6 months, and then I would have 2, 3 in the same week, and then it would be 6 months. So it was extremely hard to catch. And the one episode, of course, during rest in 2019. So after having gone through that sort of process of talking to experts, did these examinations. I also did a huge examination at Linköping University Hospital as part of a project where I did very advanced sort of heart scanning, and everything was fine. I mean, strong heart, healthy heart, no scarring, not even unusually big. And obviously as an athlete, you want to have a strong heart, but you don't necessarily want to have a very large heart. Mine was normally large, but within healthy range, so to speak, which it is good. Which is the best marker for heart health in that sense. So, let's progress a few more years into it, and I started having a little more episodes, and I understood, and I did have more episodes, for instance, after drinking alcohol the night before, like if I was at a party or somehow, or if we had a dinner or some occasion where I would drink more than 3 glasses of wine or equal to that, I would be much more sensitive in the morning after. So that was something that I did know how to modify. Also, general stress, lack of sleep would be a factor, which when I did get AF, and I did get it more and more, I could always find a rationale to why I had it. And this carried on. Back in my mind, it sort of lingered that this may be a problem. I need to maybe address this at some point. And then I'd say for the last 18 months, and especially for the last 12 months, it's been a definite problem. And from this point on last year, and certainly from the point of New Year's and forward, I knew I had to address this in some way. And I had to, more than anything, understand what it was and what I could do about it. And as far as I understood, I did a lot of self-examination. I understood from an early part on that the odds of my heart still being healthy was very good, and that my AF was something called trigger released paroxysmal atrial fibrillation, which means that there's always a trigger that sort of starts the AF. Very rarely, or extremely rarely, I mean, I could say maybe 2 or 3 occasions, and 2019 being one of them, where it just out of nowhere started. Always a trigger. Paroxysmal means, I guess, it ends by itself. I've never had an electroconvert. It always sort of just faded out. And the difference that I saw from going back 6 to 12 months is that I started having it much more often. And the sessions, or the sort of, the AF sessions, they hung on for much longer. Initially going back 10 years, they would fade off within 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I could get out, do my training, just feeling fine. No big deal at all. Whereas now, if I did get it, it would sometimes hang on in there as long as 24 hours. And for me, the typical AF would be that my heart rate is very irregular. And I did get one of the best tools that I've had so far, and I highly recommend it, is this Garmin watch. This is the Garmin Forerunner 970, and it does have an EKG app on, which is specifically made, or it's specifically there for detecting atrial fibrillation. And it's a very easy test. You just, click down on the watch, and you hold your fingers. You sit still, of course, hand still, and you just hold your index finger and your thumb around the watch, and you do get a very, very good, I'd say, medical standard curve of the EKG. And I say medical standard curve because the Swedish hospital really appreciated getting these. You just download them and turn them into PDF, and you can send them anywhere. And they really appreciated the fact that I had caught my atrial fibrillation numerous times. And this app on this watch hasn't been wrong once. It's been 100% correct in determining or confirming that I do have AF, or I'm out of my AF. Yeah, my watch confirms it. So that's been very good, and it also made me suspect that I've had a lot more AF than I thought before, because noticing that a lot of the AF actually hung in there for 12, 15, 18, 24, even up to 26 hours, during which time I would feel, I wouldn't feel perfectly normal, but I would feel okay, which means that I could do everything that I wanted to do. I could play with the kids if I had a good day. It wouldn't be too, I could always play with my kids. It would be more or less strenuous. I would sleep well. My heart rate, in terms of the sort of resting heart rate, would be fine. It would be slightly above my normal resting heart rate, but it wouldn't be alarming at all. My HRV would be fine. The only way that I could or would detect it is if I did something strenuously, physically, or this testing. But I would still be in AF, and that is not a good thing to be in over time. If one has a big sort of extra capacity as I do, you do function pretty well. And even while getting AF, my typical triggers would be swimming, for instance. And I must say immediately here that I've had The most help that I've had, the biggest sort of support, the biggest sort of the well of knowledge for me has been Chat GPT, which is ironic because I have an inherent skepticism towards AI. I from an existential point of view, as a human being, I do not like the idea of AI, and I do not like the way I communicate with it as it's a person. You know, you're being polite, you thank it, it's, and it expresses itself as a human being. It's very, very strange and weird, and I have a very deeply rooted skepticism towards it. But in terms of being a medical advisor, and in terms of interpreting and giving nuances, and also on a therapeutic level, on a soft sort of human level, actually, and it's very ironic, it's been just excellent. I mean, it's been the absolute best help for me to understand this, to interpret it, and to also work with this issue from a mental and emotional standpoint, which has been basically just as hard. So very early on, I took all my medical journals. I took the EKG curves that I had from my Garmin. I put everything into ChatGPT, and I just asked it, tell me what you see. And I started giving it information about myself, my background, pretty much what I've said here, and it sort of identified who I am. And I just started feeding it with both sort of hard data, but also soft data, how things feel, how I react, what my thoughts are, sort of my train of reasoning, my train of thought. And it was amazing at sort of understand. And I gave it all my, like, what's happening when this happens? How come I react during this while swimming? Why is weight training this and that? Wind outside. I'm riding in the wind. It seems to get so much worse. Like I always get AF when out in the wind. And there are explanations for all of these things. For like with the vagal nerve being active, my background as an athlete, the mammal dive reflex is activated when immersed in water, and also just the fact that you sort of lay down in water, and that sort of the part of the heart where the lung vein sits on top of the heart gets more blood flow. All those things play in. Weights with temporarily sort of the blood pressure peaks, and also the Valsalva breathing. You know, when you hold your breath when doing heavy lifting, or you apply the pressure from the abdomen. Wind, the fact that wind, like sudden bursts of wind or windy conditions in general, give an AF reaction. It all has an explanation, and it's all phenomenon that are sort of expressed or named in the medical literature. And it helped me to understand why this was happening. It helped me to understand that I was a good candidate for regaining my health. It also helped me a lot to understand that it may not have to be something I did wrong, like because I've had a lot of, I wouldn't say I've had a huge identity crisis, but definitely a lot of sort of darker thoughts, a lot of what if and what if not, and so forth. Not really blaming myself, but just trying to understand and just trying to figure out the way to move forward from this. And something to be really understood here without being too long-winded here, may have to do sort of two episodes here, because time is running out. I have to pick up my kids from preschool and school in a while, so I'll do 2 episodes. But anyway, let me finish off with this. So this will be the background of my AF. But something that has been extremely apparent and very obvious, and sort of doing all this research, having had this sort of long process of thinking things over and investigating, and also weighing my different options. Like, I tried so many things in the process before doing ablation, eating more potassium, eating more magnesium, doing different breathing exercises. I mean, but I was always very skeptical, as I don't think it would be an extremely surprising for me if I had done, I've done something wrong for 20 years in terms of my diet. I mean, seeing that I've been really a high performer my entire life, very rarely ill, always strong, always fit, always good energy, always being able to sort of muscle my way through like anything that's been hard, have had major projects and tasks, organized events. It would have surprised me had I, during all that time, had something wrong with me, like in terms of you've been lacking magnesium for 20 years. That would have been surprising. So I did try a lot of things. I'd say these things may or may not have added or taken away 5%. Maybe some of the symptoms were slightly milder in some way. I guess sort of adding some magnesium and potassium is always good, I guess. There may be a lack of those minerals or electrolytes in our sort of normally produced diet, even if we eat a lot of sort of unprocessed foods like fish, meat, and eggs, which I eat a lot of. But my takeaway point here, before I sort of pause and do a second second episode of this or follow-up episode of this, is that there could be numerous reasons to why you have AFib. It could be the fact that AFib is just a symptom of a much more serious conditions that you have. It could be a symptom of some other sort of structural heart disease, and the AFib is just a symptom of something much more serious. Or it could be a symptom of a more sort of gray zone, over time, unhealthy lifestyle, metabolic. You may be metabolically compromised. You may be 20, 30 pounds overweight. You may be drinking too much, stressing too much, exercising not too much, but way too little, which is the case in 99% of all people out there. You may have been a smoker in the past, or actually maybe still smoking and so forth. There may be so many reasons to having AFib. But for some of us, especially if you're more if you can identify with my background, lifelong athlete, very health conscious, humble towards life, of course, which is an important thing. I do acknowledge the fact of having to adapt as aging. I have very little prestige. I have very little ego. I do not interest myself in comparing myself to other people. I just want to make the most out of my own potential, and I just want to make sure that I invest in my long-term health in order to be as good of a person as I can, and to be as good of a father as I can for my 3 young kids, and to be a role model for them, and to be able to experience and enjoy life with them, of course. I mean, very primal, a very primal motivation for staying fit. Not at all, I mean, competition, fame and glory, winning, I couldn't care less about that. But anyway, if you can identify with what I have in my background, general really good health, no real red flags anywhere in terms of examination. As far as we know, a structurally healthy heart. Is there aging involved? Absolutely. But so understanding that for many of us, if we're lucky, there's no underlying problem really. The AFib itself is the problem. And why AFib has developed, I mean, there are so many theories about that, but also if you have 100 patients, you may have 80 different explanations, given the backgrounds are all different in between those people. And but I would say reasonably, at least for someone like me, it's just a synergistic effect of many things. 40,000 hours trained during my life, give or take. So many hard ultra events and so many super hard interval sessions going on max heart rate. A lot of swimming in cold water, a lot of swim run, which is excellent cardio training, but also puts a lot of stress on the system. Age, of course, turning 53 this year, today actually. Life stress is a factor as well. We can't take that away, but I mean, we gotta sort of acknowledge it and understand it. Like I said, my life, I think that in my own experience over the past, my last 5 years have been the most stressful in my life. A lot of joy, of course, but just like a constant to-do list. And anyone that has kids know what I mean. So much joy and happiness and love, but also always the sense of not doing enough. As I travel a lot and have training trips, there's a bittersweet mix of really enjoying the away time, but also having a really, really, really bad conscience about not being there. And so most of you know what I mean. So stress is a factor as well. And then I would say also predisposition, anatomy, how things are constructed in your heart, not from a illness standpoint, but more from just from being anatomical variation, or just how your heart is constructed. I mean, all those things combined. But it does not have to be anything that you have done to harm yourself. It doesn't have to be like, blaming ourselves, blaming yourself, blaming myself. That's a big thing to overcome, and to see this not as much. I mean, again, if you can identify with my situation, not to see this as a heart disease per se, more like an electrical fault in an otherwise healthy heart. And that really helps from a mental and emotional standpoint, and also to really know that to embrace an active lifestyle further on. And I had I struggled for the longest time about how to go public about this. Finally, I did I just wanted to sort of just go beneath the surface, but I did do a podcast episode about this. I thought, what's the point of having a podcast if you can't talk about the things that, are really occupying your mind 24/7 for a long time? And I thought this is also of very good, this is good information. I would have appreciated to see this episode from someone else that I could identify and relate to when I was in this situation. There are too many generic informations out there that really, or just episodes or YouTubes that want to solve something, but not the transparent sort of, okay, here's my story, you can do with it what you want. If it helps you, I'm so happy. But something that I really struggled with was how to not go into defensive mode, like having to defend the choices that I made, having to defend the lifestyles that I had. I've always been a big advocate of exercise training, being active, of course with a huge asterisk of humility. We could, no matter what type of lifestyle we live, we're all gonna die one day. So it's not like being humble in the face of adversity, and being humble in the face of sort of the fragileness that sort of is the core of life. How fragile we are. We're basically just a sack of blood and meat held together with our skin, and that brings a lot of humility. And being humble in the fact that we're all very, very vulnerable is necessary. But still, I faced a lot of struggles mentally and emotionally on how to express myself around this. And but I really sort of I talked a lot with my ChatGPT. Not only ChatGPT, it sounds like I don't have any friends. I do, of course, but it did have. During these sort of darker hours when you're laying in bed, or you're sort of just you're mulling these things over. ChatGPT is a very non-biased sort of engine, or like a source of information that gives great answers if you allow it to. And I just came to the conclusions that I don't regret anything at all. I mean, yeah, I do have a problem. I'm past the ablation, but yeah, yes, I have an electric issue in my heart. When it hits, it affects me, and it affects me mentally and emotionally as much as physically. But the background that I have, all the races, all the training, all the uncomfort that I've endured, all the struggles, all the sort of pain, if you will, all the fatigue, it's come to a price, of course, but it's also given me huge rewards. I mean, it's shaped who I am compared to other 53-year-olds. I'm at the top 0.1% of all 53-year-olds on a global scale in terms of health and function, and that has come from the lifestyle that I have lived. I have shaped great tools. It's shaped me from sort of what I work with today. It's helped me inspire and educate so many people around me. It's helped me to helped me coach thousands of people, helping people with their swimming, organized triathlon and swim run events for thousands and thousands and thousands of competitors. It's been sort of facilitating fitness and health all around me throughout my life, and that's the effect of the life that I've chosen, and it has given me sort of a huge well of health and strength and function to sort of draw upon. Does every lifestyle have its cost? Yes, it does, and it may come to a cost, and it may have a price, as with everything. And like I said before, no matter how you live your life, one day you're still gonna die one day, regardless. Even the ones that are crazy about the longevity, the stupid longevity trend during which you actually forget to live if you follow these guys. I mean, that's how restricted their life is getting. But so I grounded myself in the fact that I'm really proud of the life that I've been living. Do I have some things I could have done better? Yes, of course. In hindsight, there always are. But I do appreciate the triathlon and endurance lifestyle. I do appreciate all the knowledge and all the people that I've met, all the experiences, all the beautiful trips, all the struggles, all the sort of self-exploration, all the humility, all the mental and physical and emotional tools that I had to develop, all the knowledge again. And there is just this small problem that I need to fix now, and it's probably and hopefully fixable. So, episode 1, this turned out to be much longer than I had anticipated. I'll do a second episode. I hope you appreciated my sort of long-windedness here. I just wanted to be detailed, so just to be as transparent as possible for you guys to use in any way you can, to bring into your own ChatGPT, to put that, maybe I'm bringing in a piece of the puzzle here that you can use or somehow sort of help you. I wouldn't be happier if it actually did that in some way for someone. And I'll be back tomorrow with a second episode, during which I'll talk about my ablation and the rehabilitation after, and some really good takeaways from that. Thanks for watching, everyone.